get solutions. Brother Adesoji.
Oh, yes. Speaking of South Africa, just north of South Africa and the northwest corner
Beautiful
of South
beaches too. Beautiful beaches there.
northwest corner of Africa is a story that no one tends to know about or think about. The place used to be known as Southwest Africa,
Correct.
but as of 1992 became known as Namibia, the land of Sanjunyoma, the bastion of the Southwest African People's Organization.
Brother,
SWAPO.
you provoked me. I'm sorry. I have to interrupt.
Before you interrupt,
we can't contain it.
hold on. Before you interrupt, let me just say I am going to post a video that shows the beautiful beaches of Namibia. Brother, interrupt.
Okay. I want listeners to always remember Cuba's contribution to the liberation of Namibia and South Africa.
This is good.
So as you were speaking, that just came back in such an overwhelming way. I have to bring it up. Cuba sacrificed, I think people speculate that as many as 30,000 Cubans died in the wars of African liberation from the 1960s up to when Cuba finally pulled down its last soldiers, I think, around in the 1990s. But the Battle of Cuito-Cuanavao in 1987 was so
still
critical.
The stuff of legends.
The stuff of legend, when South Africa still occupied what it called Southwest Africa, which was called Namibia, when it occupied large parts of Angola and was supporting UNITA under Savimbi, the CIA agent, and the FNLA under Holden Roberto, the other CIA agent.
Turning one African brother against the other.
Exactly. And here are two key things. African countries, and we talk about what's the meaning of independence, had been, most of them, independent since the 1960s, and had stood there as the apartheid, the so-called apartheid invincible army, crushed African lives, women and children, attacking all the neighboring African countries. Mozambique, Angola, bombing them, killing them, and they had not done much. It took tiny Cuba to send its expeditionary army to Angola and the Battle of Cuito-Cuanavao and destroy the South African army and force them to withdraw from Angola. And they realized, wait, these guys can actually pursue us all the way to South Africa. So they quit Namibia. They released Mandela, and the rest is history. So we should always never forget that instance. I know it's a bit of a diversion.
No, you are a mwalimu, and that is why you are a mwalimu. You take us through these routes that we need to go through. Thank you so much.
There is another part to that story, which is when the Cuban forces arrived in Angola, the terms of agreements, terms of reference was containment. But the commander of the Cuban army said, as long as I contain the South African Defense Force, I will continue to take L's. But if you allow me to unleash my forces against them, I can guarantee you in 2 years, you will no longer see them. Which will culminated which culminated in the Battle of Cuito-Cuanavao.
Excellent.
Now,
back to you.
Speaking of the final solution, in Europe, it is often discussed that the Holocaust is one of the most unseemly acts of cruelty against humanity. But little is said of the fact that what happened in Europe had already been tested by the same Germans in Namibia as of May 12, 1883, when they landed on the shores of Namibia beaches and Walvis Bay and proceeded to outline what is known as the Lebritham, which is the land of the Iron Race. And what they met were people of the Hereros and the Namas.
Correct.
And Suffice to say, they went into overdrive, which is we cannot live with these people. We are going to effectively exterminate them. And an extermination order was signed,
Yep.
which meant they had to kill everything moving.
Right.
Suffice to say, in 1 year and 6 months, they decimated the population. They chased the ones they couldn't kill into the desert.
Yep.
They poisoned wells
Yep.
and waterways.
Just
That
for the
led,
people, Brother Adesoji, for the people who are into this current lifestyle that we live, just think Avatar. Go ahead, Brother Adesoji.
Yep.
yes, and
Yep.
they poisoned waterways and proceeded
Destroy the
to
food stock.
destroy the food stock, created concentration camps, gave them poisoned blankets so that they can have diseases and die. Now, how did we know about this? This matter came to a head when, at the Nuremberg trial, Hermann Göring was on the stand, and when he was accused of genocide, he said, and these were his words, that we only perfected what you did in South Africa. You remember the Boer Wars with the concentration
Yep.
camp?
Yep.
So we only perfected whatever it is you did. And it comes back to a full circle.
No, but it's
Wherever the
interesting you said that, because he's saying,
Yes.
don't stand here moralizing. You know, if you're going to execute us that
Executors.
the victors, justice, but not because you're any better than us. You also committed genocide. That's what he was saying. Well, go ahead.
So, I mean, to buttress what you just said, in fact, he said the history of Europe is littered with the idea of genocide. So we are not doing anything different.
Amazing.
Simply because we have been caught does not mean we are innocent nor guilty. Neither are you. So it goes to show that the history of Africa has always been about the land, not about the people.
And the
If they can get
contemporary
rid of the
terms of
people,
Africa, yeah.
Right.
so if
And
they can get rid
contemporary
of the
Africa.
people, if they can get rid of the people without anybody knowing about it, all well and good.
And
But history,
today, Namibia reflects, of course, what we have in South Africa, where 6% of the population is of European ancestry and also controls 72% of the land. And I just want to add something else to bring the US a little in this also, in a different context, but similar.
We're at 2 minutes to the...
Okay. Victor's justice. The fog of war. For anybody who's not familiar with that documentary, please watch that documentary about Robert McNamara. And he was interviewed, very interesting. And he said one thing very interesting. He said, in terms of World War II, it was victor's justice. He said it was who won the war, who got to determine who was right, who was wrong. Had we lost the war, he said, we would have been lined up against the wall and shot like war criminals. So he was actually conceding that is not the issue of justice. It's about might is right. So I just wanted to interject that in.
Thank you.
and I'll add this to it. Here's the sad part. There is an article in the Namibian Constitution, Article 140,
Yes.
which says all laws which were in force immediately before independence shall remain in place until amended or repealed by an act of parliament, or until they are declared unconstitutional by a competent court. So, which means we've stole it, make us return it.
Yep. There you go.
And
what can we add?
So, comrades, your final thoughts.
Always
Well,
nice to be in conversation. We don't have enough
yeah,
time.
yeah, we
Time.
don't have time, but I
No.
think this is an issue that we should definitely
Yeah.
revisit in a part two, maybe in a couple of
We should. We
weeks or
should.
a
This is
couple of
this is a big
months.
topic. So for me, I'll remind everyone you can join our Patreon community at patreon.com/Kumbukeni. You will see it's the same spelling as our YouTube channel, or you can be a subscriber and support this work at youtube.com/at Kumbukeni1. And the goal this month is to hit 1,000 subscribers so that we can start generating income and support this work. Brother Adisoji, if you can close us out.
Yes, I would leave you with the words of Thomas Sankara, who said,
Brilliant.
"It is homeland or death."
Brilliant.
Homeland or death. And thank
Have
you
a
all
nice
for
day,
coming.
all.
A luta
Thank you very
continua.
much.
That's what I
Victory
used to
Aseta.
say.
Victory
Thank you
Aseta.
all.
Thank you. Always good to be in
Thank you.
conversation with you, brothers.
Same here. Same here. Thank you very much for watching, and join us again next week. And till then, it is goodbye from me.
Kwaherini, siku njema.